Hi friends, my name is Mackenzie, also known as M to the third, and today we've got a project video. So by the time you see this video, the surprise will already be out, so I can talk about the fact that my cousin is throwing her daughter, aka who I call my niece, a all-out first birthday party, and I've been helping her with a lot of the little elements. Like, it's truly a team effort. It's been a lot of fun to plan. So where I am right now, it is this weekend, it is Monday. And what I know that most people don't know is that it's actually going to be a surprise wedding for her and her partner. So this whole thing is happening. My mom, her family are all coming up from Southern California and meeting in Seattle to celebrate, and it's also Mother's Day, so there's like a lot of stuff that the cousins are doing to celebrate all the moms, including her, because it's her first Mother's Day. Yeah, so there's a lot going on. But so why am I here? Why am I making this video? So she requested for the birthday party, right, that everyone wear a monochromatic look. The colors are very like piñata, like turquoise, pink, red, bright green, yellows, and so everyone has like been, you know, discussing in all the family chats like what we're wearing. And I initially was kind of like looking for something, but I realized I have this incredible hot pink like boiler suit. And so I was like, what a perfect moment and vibe. It's like spring. The weather's gonna be beautiful, which, like, given our track record here in the Pacific Northwest, is pretty exciting. So I've got my pink boiler suit out, and I have a pair of like monochromatic hot pink Birkenstocks that is my plan to wear with it. I'm gonna paint my nails pink, and I'm gonna re-dye my hair pink, so it's gonna be a vibe, right? But my friend Tim, who I talk about a lot on this channel, has been making granny square bucket hats. Okay, both of us are in our granny square era. If you saw the last episode of my podcast, you know that I like can't stop, won't stop making granny squares. So I was like, you know what would really complete this look is a bucket hat. Now let me give you some like inspiration of what I'm thinking about. Right? Can you see it? Do you see the vision? Like with some French braids, some like cutie earrings, and then my like little crochet bucket hat, right? Are you following? So I thought I would bring you along on the process of making this, which I'm hoping I can bang out like pretty quick. Sorry, Moose clearly is like, why are you talking? Who are you talking to? I know a lot of you are also knitters who are interested in granny squares, so I thought I would also kind of make it a tutorial. Yeah, so it's kind of like tutorial, kind of vloggy, and I thought it would generally be pretty fun. And the first part of it is picking yarn. So I've been making a lot of like fingering weight granny squares, but I think that for this, I want to make them DK. What I have most in my stash is fingering weight. So my plan right now is to double strands of fingering weight to give marly, scrappy vibes to the granny squares, and also just to give the hat a little bit more structure. The one skein that I'm most excited to use is this one. It is a skein of Mondim that was dyed by La Bien-Aimée. So this is the tag. And y'all know, if you've watched my podcast before, that I adore this yarn, just not for socks. So I actually have quite a bit of it in my stash. So I'm going to use some of this, and then I'm going to hold it double. And I mean, just like look at this freaking color. I feel like it's not even showing how glorious it is on camera, so I'll try and edit it to give you the real like experience. But so this is going to be like kind of the base and where I'm going to start. And then I'm going to kind of like pick and choose some stuff to go with it, which I think will like tone it down just like a smidge. So yeah. So what Tim has been doing for the bucket hats that he's been making is making 5 granny squares that fit around the head. And so I have a pretty big head and Tim has the same size head, which is 24 inches. So I'm going to have to get a little creative and make sure that each block is like, you know, the right size so that when I put them together, it'll actually like fit my noggin. And then he makes a 5-point granny square up top so that each point kind of like settles in the crook of where each of the 5 are attached. That makes sense? You following? And then he makes like smaller granny squares for the brim. So yeah, that's my plan. I'm pretty excited about it. I hope you are too. First order of business is to kind of go through my scraps. I'm gonna first start with scraps, and then I will also like dig a little bit into my stash to see what pinky goodness we can find. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. All right, let's go. All you need to make a granny square is a crochet hook in the corresponding size to the yarn you're using and a pair of snips. I'm using a size H hook here because, like I said, I'm going to hold 2 strands of fingering weight together, which gives me roughly a DK weight. You also, of course, need your yarn. When I'm working on a project like this where I'm just picking and choosing colors, and part of the creative process is kind of pairing colors in a specific way, I like to have them all laid out so that I can see all of my options as I get started with the project. Because most of my yarn is in center pull cakes, I can take from the outside of the ball as well as the inside to get my 2 strands from the same skein. So that's what I'm doing here to get started on my very first granny square. So there are 2 ways to start a granny square. One is by something you may have heard of called a magic loop, and the other way is to basically create a chain and join it in the round and then do your first set of granny square stitches into the center of that loop. That is my preferred method and the way that I'm going to show you today. So the first thing that you want to do is to create a slip knot. Now, this is the same as knitting. Some people make the slip knot directly onto the needle. I tend to do it off of the needle and then slip it onto the hook afterwards. You want to tighten it so that it easily moves up and down the hook like you just saw, and not so tight that you're like fighting with the yarn. From here, we're going to chain 4, and that is just the process of pulling loops through the previous one, like I'm doing here. Once you have 4 chains, you're going to want to join in the round. And
how you do that is by going into the back of the chain. So this is the front where all of the braids sort of lie flat. If you flip it around to the back, you'll see that there's kind of bumps in between each loop. So you want to take your hook and put it into the bump of the first chain that you made. And then we're going to do something called a slip stitch, which is wrapping your yarn around the hook and pulling it through that back chain and the loop that's already on the crochet hook. Granny squares are made up of clusters of double crochet stitches. When you're getting started on a new round, you need to start off by chaining 3. This chain 3 counts as the first double crochet in your first cluster of 3 double crochets. Okay, I know, follow me, it's okay. I'm demonstrating quickly a double crochet, but now let's walk through it. You're gonna yarn over on your hook, go through the center of all of those joined stitches, and then you're gonna pull the yarn through the first 2 stitches and then pull it through the last 2 stitches. Okay? Then you're gonna chain 2 and then you're gonna repeat. So yarn over, pull through the center, pull through the first 2, pull through the second 2. The first row of the granny square is going to be 4 clusters of 3 double crochets. And then in between each of those clusters, you're going to have a chain 2, which indicate the 4 corners of your granny square. So let's walk through this next cluster. We're going to chain 2, and then we're going to do a double crochet, which is a yarn over, pull it through the first 2 loops, pull it through the second 2 loops. Yarn over in the center, pull it through the first 2 loops, pull it through the second 2 loops, and one more time. And then chain 2, and we're going to start our last cluster. This one varies just the tiniest bit because at the end of those chain 2, we're going to want to join the square back together. So right here, we need to do a slip stitch into the very top of the chain 3 that we started the granny square with. So right where I'm putting my hook, I'm going to wrap the yarn and do a slip stitch, which means just pulling that yarn over through both of the loops on the hook. And because I'm going to start the next round with a new color, I'm going to snip my yarn and pull the end through. And there we go. That's the very first round of our very first granny square. Now I'm going to show you how to start the next round of clusters on your granny square. I'm going to be joining a new skein of yarn. I'm just looking for the middle of this skein so that again I can hold it double. So just like the way we started, we're going to take our new color and we're going to make a slip knot with that new color. This is going to allow us to anchor the new yarn to that first round. Now you're going to want to identify where you did that last slip stitch to join it in the round, and I actually alternate right side and wrong sides when I'm doing granny squares, so I'm going to be looking at the wrong side of the granny square as I start this. So take your hook with your slip knot on it and you're going to put it through the loop. You're going to do a yarn over and then you're going to do a slip stitch. And again, we're starting with a chain 3 before starting our first double crochet. And that chain 3 does count as the first double crochet in the cluster. So you're going to do 3. You're going to have 3 double crochets, including that first chain. And then here, you only want to chain 2 at the corners. So for this first one, you're going to go right over to the next corner and start doing your double crochets. So there's 1, there's 2, and then the third one. And then at this point, I'm going to do the chain 2. and then continue doing the double crochets. So essentially what is going on is at each corner you'll have 2 clusters with 2 chains in the middle. So when you're done with this round, you're going to have 8 clusters in total because you've basically just doubled them, and you're going to have the chain 2 at each corner. I think it's helpful to look at like the whole picture and kind of conceptualize it as a whole object, but you can also take it one step at a time. And then at the end of this second round, I'm just trimming the yarn and again pulling it through with a knot so that it secures that second color. And look how cute she looks. So that's what it should be looking like at this point. We're gonna do one more round with another color before calling it good on our first little granny square. So once again, we're starting with our slip knot, but first I want to show you the right and the wrong side. So looking at it now, you can see that first row, it's the wrong side because it's all bumpy, whereas the lighter gray color is the smooth right side. So when I get ready to do my next round, because I like to alternate it, I'm going to start at the corner right there, but looking at the wrong side of the fabric. So I take my slip knot, put it on my hook, and then I put my hook through that corner where we ended the last round, like so. I'm going to wrap the yarn onto my crochet hook and pull it through the loop as well as the slip knot. And then I'm starting the next round with a chain 3 and then doing my next 2 double crochets into that same corner hole. And so now we're going to have one more hole along each edge of the granny square, and we're just going to go right over into it. You are only doing the chain 2 at each of the corners. So each side will start with a chain 2, and then there will be a cluster of 3 double crochets, and then there will be a center gap where there will be another cluster of 3 double crochets, and then there will be the next corner where there will be 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and then 3 more double crochets into that same corner, and that will go all the way around. So let me finish this one up and then let's take a look at it with that final round. And there is the first of 5 granny squares. It looks so cute. So all I have to do is bring this thread through and tie it into a knot. And then I'm going to weave in all of my ends, which is very similar to knitting. And 1 down, 4 to go.
Casey Moose up there peeking. Okay, so it's now almost 2, so I think I started around 11. I took a break to have lunch, which was a pupusa with an egg and some sour cream and some hot sauce. It was perfect, exactly what I wanted. And I've got all 5 of my granny squares, so they look pretty good. They're all like a little different. And what I think I'm going to do is put them together, but not join them. So I'll put them together, kind of try it on, make sure like it looks okay. And then I will block them in like a strip. So as long as it like mostly fits. So I'm going to show you how to join the granny squares together, and then once I block them and like get them all set out to dry, then I'm going to start the top of the hat. So we're just moving right along. I love working with like DK weight and not fingering because everything goes so fast. But yeah, let's do it.
So, as with everything, there are many different ways to join granny squares together. This is just one of the ways. It is a helpful technique to know, especially if you're wanting to make granny squares that have the same border around them. So think of like a granny square blanket where there is a border around each square that's either white or black or like some other solid color. So I've already joined my first 2 granny squares, and it is time to do the third. I am using the hot pink as my main border color, and so that's when I'm going to begin this next round on the granny square that I'm joining to the other 2. So you're going to do this the same way that we talked about, where you make a slip knot and put it on your crochet hook, and then you're going to do a slip stitch into the corner of your granny square, which anchors it in place, and then start making your clusters. So the first step is to do this across the first edge of your granny square, and then once you do that, we can move on to the next step. So once you get to the corner, you do your first cluster and then a slip stitch. Then we're going to grab our joined squares, the one that you're attaching to. You're going to stick your hook through the corner gap on the opposite granny square and do a slip stitch. So you're pulling it through just the gap on the opposite granny square, and then it'll be attached, and you're going to do your next cluster into the corner. And then you're going to go into the next gap on the opposite granny square and do another slip stitch. And again, you're not going through both holes of the granny square that you're working on. You're just going through the one that you're attaching your work in progress to. So now I'm ready for the next hole and to continue my cluster into the next one. And we're going to just repeat this process throughout the entire length of this edge. The slip stitch in the opposite side, and then a cluster into the next gap. And this will work out perfectly, and they'll be joined really nicely. And so once you finish to the other corner, this is what it's going to look like. And you would just continue going in pattern around the top and down the other side of this granny square, and then continue the process, repeating it on the next one.
Okay, it's now like 4. So I did manage to make all the granny squares, the top, and connect them, which I feel really good about. So this is what it's looking like. Pretty cool. And I'm in much better spirits because after trying it on with the top, I think that the fit is what I want. So of course I have a bajillion ends to weave in, but yeah, so this is how it's fitting. It definitely has, like, you know, because of the shape of it, we're getting these little like bumps, but I think that's fine. I can kind of like play with it. So we've got that. And yeah, I think this is where I'm going to call it today. I might weave in the ends tonight while watching TV with Kay, but I also don't feel too bad about leaving it until tomorrow. And so the last thing to do is to do the mini granny squares for the brim, which I'll have to experiment tomorrow to see whether I'm going to do like 2 or 3 rounds. I feel like it might just be 2. So yeah, and then I think I'm going to attach them differently so that they really, you know, kind of stick out and give me a little bit of a brim. Will people at the party be like, Mackenzie, what the hell is on your head? Very possibly, but you know what? It's all about the attitude. So I'm gonna just be like, it's my new hat that I made. But I could totally see this, like, you know, hanging out at like the lake and have a little hat as long as it's not too hot. Yeah, I think it's a vibe. So I don't know, what do you think? Is it hideous? Would you make one? Tell me in the comments, please. Another day, another iced coffee. Sorry, there might be some like ambient noise because I'm out on the deck. I just got home from work and I'm really glad I went. So I included a couple of clips of my hat next to Tim's bucket hat. And so I spent yesterday joining the top of the hat in the same way that I had joined like the side panel, which was like doing an outer row on the granny square and then like attaching it. Come here. Hi. Hello. You didn't hear me come home? Okay, so I spent the time doing that, where I like added that like outer border of the granny square and then attached it like I did with the side panel. But seeing mine next to Tim's, I wasn't really happy with how pointy each of the corners were. Basically where the corner of the 5-star of the 5-point granny square met up with the edges where I joined. So I was sort of like not into that, and what he did was attach it with a single crochet around the edge. So while I was there, my shift ended at 2 and I hung out and wove in all my ends and detached the top so that I can redo it, because it sort of smooths out those corners by doing it that way. So I think that looks a lot better. I also tried on Tim's hat, and again, like my head is so big that it was like a little too small. But then I was looking for a pair of sunglasses to like style my look for Saturday. And I went to a couple like stores, like boutique stores, that I know of, and none of them had good sunglasses. They just had like black aviators and black Ray-Bans, which are like not what I was looking for. I wanted like a chunky, like kind of cat eye, you know, that's my vibe. So I ended up going to Target and actually found a really cute pair there. And I also saw that they had bucket hats. So I tried one on and it was a little small, but I liked the way that one fit, and it had kind of a wider brim than Tim's, and of course I didn't bring my phone in, so I couldn't like snag a video. I thought about buying it and then just returning it, but I was like, I'm just gonna end up with this freaking bucket hat, and I don't want that. So yeah, so I have some ideas percolating. I am going to sit out here while Kay finishes up therapy with Maple because it's just like so beautiful outside. Yeah, oh, and then let me show you. Also, look at my project bag. Is that not the most amazing project bag? I love it. Okay, so woven all the ends here, which is like that top part, and then now I have my little corner. So yeah, I'll record attaching that. I think it's gonna go a lot better. And then I'm going to start doing the smaller granny squares and kind of troubleshoot how big I want those to be for the brim. So we're getting close. I'm pretty excited. Okay, so this is technically day 3 of working on this hat, and I just like hustled all morning, finished watching Wednesday, and finished the hat. And if you can't tell, it totally does not fit. So I just made it like way too big. So I kind of clipped it in the back here. Well, let me show it to you without the clips. Okay. So like a picture of it looks really cute and like it would fit, but it's just like massive. It just, so basically like kind of played around with, you know, folding it to see like how it would fit. And I basically need to take out like one of these squares in the middle, which could work out. So here's what I'm gonna do. It's such a bummer because it does look really cute. I'm going to take out the bottom, which is what I just attached, And then I'm going to detach one of the granny squares here and detach the top. Then I'm going to take one of these and put it on the top. Now, part of the problem is that this is deeper than I realized. And so these were almost a little bit too long. So once I've reassembled it in that way, I will try it on and see if I can get away with adding this border, but just with fewer of the smaller granny squares, and if that would work, or if I'm going to have to... I actually thought that I could just go in and like do single crochet on a border and maybe just like add some stitches so that it does still have like this little bit of a flare. So I think it's salvageable, like all of this work that I've been doing, but now it is Wednesday. I'm about to go into work, and then I have Thursday, and then we're leaving Friday. The party is Saturday. On top of that, my cousin's friend, who was the officiant of the surprise wedding, canceled, and she has asked me to do that. So I don't know. I mean, she has assured me that it's very like informal. They're not even signing the papers, so I don't need to like go get I don't need to do the little online thing so that I can like actually officiate a wedding. They're gonna do all the paperwork at City Hall later. So I don't know, you guys. I don't know. I think Mercury is in retrograde, and like today I'm just like feeling like that. So I'm gonna leave a little early and of course get an iced coffee on the way to work, and then hopefully I can work on this, like basically disassembling this at knit night, which, you know, it happens. This is part of the process. I'm not following a pattern. I did realize that like Tim's is in like fingering weight. So I sort of followed all his guidelines, but I'm doing it DK weight, and it just so happened that it just came out way bigger. I also thought about felting it, but some of the yarns are superwash and some of them are not superwash, so I just don't know how that would go. So I don't really want to risk it. But, you know, in general, even if it was just like a hat like that, it would be kind of cute, but it's still too big. So, and as we've discussed, I have an larger than average head. So, I don't know. Let's try and fix it. This is part of the journey. Yeah. Okay. So, obviously, yesterday I was feeling a little bit discouraged. Hi, baby. What are you doing? What are you doing? You just want to hang out? Okay. Okay, so obviously yesterday I was feeling a little bit discouraged because I just realized the hat was way too big. And I mean, basically I knew I had all the pieces done, and if I just like reattach them, then I could, you know. I'm also waiting for someone from my property management company to come, so anyway, okay, so I just realized it was way too big, it wasn't gonna work, and I was like, ugh, you know, like when you're really looking forward and the finish line is in sight and you feel like you've crossed the finish line, and then you're like, nope, okay, back to the drawing board. So, I took it to work, I started disassembling it, and Tim, who was my inspiration behind the initial bucket hat, helped me kind of troubleshoot. So it did work out. It's real cute. And so let me just walk you through what we did. So I took it apart and sewed it back together with just 4 granny squares as like the base instead of 5, which fits my head a lot better. And then we took the last granny square and added, like, we basically rounded out the outside of it so that it was more circular and less square, so that it would, like, you know, like actually fit like a bucket hat better. But we really just were like improvising it and trying stuff out. So, you know, as much of a bummer as it is that I like don't really have a tutorial, this was really an improv kind of project. So yeah, take with that what you will. And so we kind of did that, we joined it together, and then I decided to just go in along the edge. So this whole time I've been holding fingering weight double to get like a thicker pattern. And for the brim, I went in and started doing single crochet with the smaller crochet hook, which I believe was a 3.25 millimeter, and just doing, I did 2 single crochet in every one edge stitch so that the brim like flares a little bit, and it turned out pretty freaking perfect. It's definitely like kind of going more towards a cloche than a bucket hat. Okay, here we go. But she's cute, and you know, with my outfit, I tried on the outfit this morning and it's like, it's kind of out of control, but like in the best way. So, you know, troubleshoot, I don't know, this kind of didn't turn into like as much of a tutorial as I thought, but you do get the little granny square tutorial in there and like kind of a general guide to kind of put it together. So, yeah, you know, I don't know. I think it's a good exercise for me in like improv and like just making adjustments until it works. So I'm definitely going to take some video this weekend with it all styled to show you what it ended up looking like, the whole outfit, because I did try everything on this morning and like it's a lot. It's ridiculous, but look, it's all about the attitude, you know? So this is kind of like the ending. Thanks so much for hanging out with me while I worked on this project. I hope you enjoyed the video. I do hope you learned something, even if maybe like my initial bucket hat, you know, project didn't quite turn out the way that I had hoped. But yeah, let me know if you try granny squares for the first time. Let me know, yeah. Let me know if you're entering your granny square era with me, and stick around for all of those clips of me at the party. All right, bye.